Hi, I'm Granny, and we're going down the rabbit hole of a family memory. When I was 17, a friend dropped by on his way to taking a night class at a local university. He asked me if I'd like to go with him, so I jumped on the back of his motorcycle and off we went. He was taking a class on astrology. I'd never heard of anything like this and was curious. It's important to share that this friend was just a casual acquaintance. We didn't know each other very well or for very long. The class was held in a regular classroom, and the professor teaching the class was a doctor of psychology with an interest in schizophrenia, which is why she was conducting these classes. She was hoping to find patterns or something associated with schizophrenia. So she actually did a bunch of charts for people who had schizophrenia to study them. Throughout the evening, different students would put their charts on the board and others would contribute to the interpretation of the charts. You've probably heard about the 12 different houses of the zodiac contained in astrology, and each sign has its own symbol and personality traits. I need to point out that it appears astrology originated in Mesopotamia around 3000 BC and spread from there. Depending on the sources and the description of the different houses, there appears to be some Roman and Grecian mythology that's become intermingled. So here is a generic and brief list of the symbols and personality traits, and I only basically listed about one of each of the traits just because it's more complicated than I have time and energy and understanding to share right here. You can go down that rabbit hole. Capricorn, sea goat, serious, looking out for others. Aquarius, water bearer, mystical healer. Pisces, two fish, going in different directions, a tension between fantasy and reality. Aries, a ram, singular spirit. Taurus, the bull, enjoys relaxing. Gemini, twins, love of change. Cancer, the crab, likes comfort. Leo, the lion, is theatrical. Virgo, goddess of agriculture, logical, practical. Libra, balanced, scales, values symmetry. Scorpio, intense emotions, and the scorpion is its sign. Sagittarius, an archer, loves freedom. As a reminder, this is a brief summary and is much more complicated, and it was hard to find just a couple descriptions of the personality traits. So near the end of the class, the professor asked if anybody was interested in having their chart done, and I was the only one that had never had their chart done. So I raised my hand and gave her the information she requested, and she needed to know the date of my birth, the time of day of my birth, and where on the earth I was born. My mother had shared with me the trauma of my birth. She began to hemorrhage when she went into labor, and it was called placenta previa, meaning the placenta was in the way, preventing me from being born. Therefore, she had to go through a cesarean section. And having her share this information with me, I don't think I would have known so much of the details of my birth otherwise. Once my chart was on the board, the class began to interpret it, and it was really a powerful moment for me to see so many people I had never met before reveal so much about my personality and life. I don't remember anything that was shared with me that night that was wrong or hit me wrong. It was pretty accurate to me, and that caused a lot of curiosity. And how does this work? It was interesting to me, but it began to be a little more like alchemy when the professor started advancing my chart from every 2 years from my birth. And she would list significant things in my life every 2 years. And essentially, I only remember at 2 years, twin sisters were born, and it showed that there was a multiple birth when I was 2 years old. When I was 4 years old, it showed that a grandparent died, and it was my dad's father, and we were really close, and I've talked about him before. I don't remember anything significantly until then she started advancing my chart from the age that I was into the future. And the thing that struck me the most was she said when I was around 26, I would either give birth to a child or to a great idea. And my first child was born when I was 27. I stayed after class and talked with the professor. She shared with her motivation doing the astrology charts to try and find answers for her, for people that she knew that had schizophrenia. Something to try and help people understand. She also shared there were people helping her in the data collection in the computer lab, and I said that I would help. I worked on it until all the data that was able to be entered was entered, and then I kind of lost touch. So I don't know if she was ever able to find the answers that she was looking for. At this same time, I became acquainted with people who were involved with not only astrology, but also the tarot cards. I was curious, but not too involved. It was about 6 months after taking the class that I began to notice that too often people involved in tarot cards and astrology appeared to be really structured by it, that they would do their charts first thing every morning to determine what they would and wouldn't do that day. I came to believe that personal choice was non-existent in their lives and how they chose to conduct their lives, which was disturbing to me, and I kind of started separating myself away from those people. I've often thought how curious it is and strange that my chart was so accurate. How can that be? When I went down the rabbit hole of the light spectrum, I've thought often about astrology because of the light spectrum, our eyes can see very little. And most of the spectrum, not only can we not see it, we can't hear it, we can't feel it. And I'm wondering if scientists are even able to rate, measure, judge, interpret the entire spectrum. And what we know of the spectrum is that all there is of the spectrum. It also makes me wonder about when we went down the rabbit hole on the moon and how historically lunacy, lunatic, moon madness, and how people who claim to be influenced by the moon, but scientists have been very unsuccessful in being able to measure the moon's influence. Have you ever met somebody who could tell when a storm was coming and could actually tell you how strong it was going to be? I have, and they are pretty accurate. So how can planets and constellations so far away from us affect our behavior? We've already learned that the moon has a dramatic effect on the Earth, but we haven't been able, or maybe our science hasn't advanced to the point that we can judge that influence. I know I do have many characteristics listed by my sign, my zodiac sign. And how do I explain my chart unfailingly accurate? How is that? Is it possible that our future holds some of the answers to these questions? One thing I do know, and it is. Anything that robs you of your choices, you need to avoid. Whatever that looks like to you. If you don't have choice, you don't have freedom. Thank you for spending this time with me. Join me again when Granny goes down the rabbit hole. Thank you.